Grimdark style is one of the coolest things to do in my opinion, and it's also one of the fastest. So if you were trying to paint your army quickly, this is the way to do it. Now, this specific scheme, I call it my Tepig scheme. It's just for these scout units because they're going to be part of a kill team. So I didn't really paint anything else in this color scheme except for these guys. Not Tepig because it's, you know, it's Tepig. So we're going to use Basilica Red here, mixed it with a little bit of black into my airbrush. And then I use my little concoction, which is like thinner and flow improver and some water. I can go over that in a different video. But for this one, I just mix it directly into the little pot. The next color you're going to be using is the Legendary Red. I really like this red. It's nice and bright, but not too bright to the point where it's a little bit orange. So I always use my glove to test to make sure that the flow and everything is hitting and it doesn't like spider web, because that's really annoying. And you're going to be hitting it at an angle, and only really the armor pieces that are going to be orange, because the rest of you are going to paint it black, like the clothing and everything. Now you're going to go on to the next color, which is going to be like a red-orange, or pretty much any orangey color. If anything, you can mix a little bit of orange with Legendary Red, you'll get the same effect. Just mix it up inside your pot, because again, we're going for speed. We're trying to finish as quick as possible. And then here you're going to be a little bit more focused with the areas that you're going to be hitting. So it'll be just like small little spurts. Control is the name of the game here. Got to make sure that you're actually hitting the spots that you're supposed to. If not, again, not really that big of a deal. The whole thing that we're doing here is a Grimdark, quickly, fast as possible color scheme. That was my bird, I apologize. Now we're going to be using the black on the pants just to make it like, because I don't know if you've seen the Pokemon Tepig, but Tepig has like a little belt around his waist that's black. This is essentially what we're doing here. We're going to be adding black on the legs. We're also going to be adding black on like the arms. Some arms have just flesh tone, which is a whole other thing we're going to do later on. But for now, you're just going to do just the solid black. I'm using Warpaint's Fanatic matte black, but you could use pretty much any black. And then everything that I'm using in this video is going to be linked down below. So if you're interested in to know what I use to paint, it's going to be there. And the next color that we're going to be doing is that gray tone. And we're just going to be not airbrushing. We're just going to be dry brushing very lightly. I like to use the back of my hand to sort of like gauge how much paint is left on the brush, because you want very, very little paint when it comes to dry brushing. So you're going to be hitting it very lightly. All right, for the next section, we're going to be doing some more dry brushing, but a little bit different. We're going to use gunmetal, and what we're going to essentially do is dry brush over the black weapons. What that does is it makes it a little bit easier to work with, because I don't know if you've noticed, but metallic paints have a tendency to be pretty thick, and then thinning them makes them look a little runny and a little odd. So what I like to do is just dry brush it with a darker silver, and then afterwards hit it with an actual silver. Just dry brushing over that just to give it a little bit more depth, and that way the weapon doesn't look so boring and, you know, flat, which is not the best, because you spend a lot of money on these guys and you want to at least make them look cool. So the key here is speed, which is why we're airbrushing, dry brushing as much as we can. So here I sped up the clip just to showcase, but yeah, I hit it first. I dry brush it first with the dark silver, and then I dry brush over that with the standard silver. Next, we're going to go and hit up all of the leather. Normally, I would add a lot more detail to this, but run and gun. Let's fucking finish this shit. So we're going to just hit all of the pockets, hit all of the holsters and everything. Now, it doesn't have to have all these pockets. A lot of these are just, you know, because it looks cool. It does nothing to the actual game. You don't have to add it to them, but I like to, just because it adds a little bit more of a, hey, they're prepared. And, you know, they're all grimy, which means that they've been through some shit. That means that they have a lot of shit in their pockets. So why not paint their pockets? And the way that I like to paint is like a batch painting method, which is you paint one color on everything. That way you can kind of speed through it a lot faster. And that way it looks like you're accomplishing something, you know, that dopamine hit where it's like, ooh, I finished this. I finished all of the pockets. I finished all of their holsters. Finished all of their guns. I finished all of their armor. It just feels nice to actually see that grow. I mean, it's great when you can see it on one single model, but then it feels daunting when you finish 4 and then you have 6 more remaining with nothing. So doing this at least makes it seem like, oh, as soon as I'm done with this one section, these bitches gonna look so good, because we're almost fucking done. And then once I'm done with this color, I don't have to worry about this again. So that's kind of the reason why I like doing, especially if they're all going to be one single color, I like doing it in batches. And that's also the reason why I like painting my miniatures as Pokemon, is because all of the units are going to be a different color, and it's less tedious and less annoying than having an entire 2,000 point list be the exact same color. It can be a little daunting sometimes, and then by the last unit, you're just like, I'm fucking done with this shit. I don't want to do this again. And then you do it again for a different army. I don't like that. So if I paint all of them every single unit a different Pokemon, it kind of keeps it nice and fresh, you know? Okay, rant over. Now we're going to grab the silver. You can use any silver. The one that I used for this, and my dumbass forgot to record it, I think, I couldn't find the clip anymore, is the Pro Acryl Silver. This silver is so nice to work with. You can thin it a little bit without it being super weird. Like, the consistency doesn't change too much if you add just a tinge of water, and it's very easily to work with. And one thing that I really like about using the silver is you can use a speed paint over it, and because it's almost like a whitish silver, it doesn't change the color too much, but you can still paint it over it to where it looks like a metallic version of that color. I'm going to be doing this later, and I'm fairly certain I forgot to add what paint it was, but there is a paint by Citadel called Nazdrag Yellow. It is a contrast paint. I usually hit that over the silver, which I'm going to do here for the Aquila, the chest piece, just to give it a little bit more of a gold tinge to it. Oh, yep, right here. So you're going to see that as I hit it with the Nazdrag Yellow, it's going to make it look gold. And it does have a bit of a sheen or a bit of a shine to it, which is really nice. Now we're going to go over to the basing. This one is the one you're going to place and kind of leave it overnight. So if you're painting this over a couple days, I think I did this over 5 days. That's because I had to work, unfortunately, and I had other commission work to work on. So this was sort of like a very, very side thing that I was doing. This is not like something that I was focusing on. If I was focusing on this, it would probably take me one afternoon, not this section, which is the basing, because it will have to dry. So for the basing, this is all that I was using. This is the one from Green Stuff World. It's just ground texture. It's pretty cool. I like the way that it dries. It does have a very muddy texture, which is great because we're going for that grimdark goopy look, which you'll see in a little bit. So you can be very generous when you're adding this on there. I like to kind of like tap it a little bit using the little plastic scooper. The plastic scooper I think I got from Citadel like forever ago. I don't remember how much it cost, probably like $10 ago. $10? I think I got it 2 years ago. But yeah, be very, very generous. Jesus Christ, I'm forgetting how to English. Generous with it, just so that it can get a little lumpy and it looks muddy on the ground, which is super cool. Later on, we can add different washes and whatnot in order to make it seem even more muddy than it actually is. All right, later on, we're going to add some opal skin. I want to do a very light skin tone because we're going to add a bunch of grime and washes over it. So that alone is going to darken it. So at the meantime, I don't need it to be very dark. Very pale is perfect. If you're going to be adding a ton of washes to it, because again, we're going to be gunning through this. I'm not going to spend time. I'm not going to paint eyes, which for me really sucks because I actually really enjoy painting eyes. But for this, like I said, we're running and gunning. We're painting this as quickly as we can. We want to get this ready for tabletop within a couple days. And this can easily be done within like 3 days. Because I think I did it within 3 days, but just span over 2 weeks just because I wasn't able to actually be consistent with it. For the hair, we're just going to do a dark gray color because these homies are definitely not young. They're old as shit because they're space marines. So they've seen some shit and they have been stressing. So we're going to do like a dark gray color. The only thing is after I added the washes, the enamel washes later on, some of the hair kind of came out. Like, I guess the enamel washes was really stressing them out and they were balding. So I had to go back after it completely dried and repainted the hair. And then we're going to add some decals. I'm not going to do a video on how to add decals. I'm going to do that at a later time. But yeah, some of these are, I was kind of like going with maybe I could do a completely different faction, but I decided at the end to just do Dark Angels because that's like my main Space Marine army is Dark Angels. And then just some numbers on the other side just to show what squadron they're part of. Now, I wanted to do this before adding this. So this is Villainy Inc.'s Goon's Grime. The link is also going to be down in the description below, along with everything that I used. Make sure that when you're using that, you do have some pure odorless mineral spirits handy to clean your brushes, because it will not mix with water. So you're going to be very like general with this. You're going to put this in a little, I don't know what that's called, dish. I feel like it has a different name, but I don't remember. You're going to put in a little dish. You're going to fill it up with the Goon's Grime. I usually like to do a little bit of Goon's Grime and some Ichor of the Damned. Just like maybe for every like 6-7 drops of Goons, I'll add, for every 6-7 times you Goon, you add a little bit of Ichor in there. Make it a little nice. Now you're going to go into your girl's makeup cabinet and you're going to get one of these, or you can just buy them on Amazon. I think they're pretty cheap. They're like little makeup wedges. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of wipe away a lot of the excess gooning that you've done on your model, so that way it's not disgusting. Now you're not going to be wiping away all of it, but you will wipe a good amount of it. What you don't take off with that, you're going to use these little makeup dabs, mascara dabs, and you're going to use these to kind of like pinpoint the areas. Don't wipe. What I usually do is more of a dab. I'll wipe a little bit, but majority of it is going to be more of a dab, so that way you don't see the streak marks and it just looks like some gunk was accumulating underneath, just to give it more of that dirty, grimy look. Now you're going to go over with some basing pigments or some pigment powders, linked down below. These are from Gamer Grass. I was going to say Green Stuff World. Gamer Grass. You don't have to do this step. This is just to give it a little bit more realism. So, you know, as they're trudging through, there's going to be some dirt that clumps onto them that isn't necessarily the same type as the, you know, goon. Getting goon all over their boots. There's going to be some pigment powders on there or some dirt. So you're going to go in there with a little bit of pigment powder and just kind of hit those areas before it dries. So then when it dries, it really looks caked on. You're going to see it more around the feet area, the bottom area, because that's where they're going to be running through and where like all the mud's going to be splashing onto their bodies. And you can get creative with this. You're going to add in different areas. This part's completely up to you. Again, this is art. Art is subjective. You can do whatever you like with it. Now let that dry overnight, and then we're going to hit it with a nice rim job the next morning with Angel Green, since they're part of my Dark Angels unit. Or they're going to be part of my Dark Angels unit, but I'm using it as a kill team. Yeah. And if you want to help me out, you can hit the links below. You know, use some of those items. I do get a kickback for a couple of them. Just go through it. That would really be super cool of you guys. Or if you want maybe another tutorial, comment in the down below and let me know what you guys want to see. Thanks, guys.